Unmute. Hello. Boom. We were putzing around because the software updated, so Renee is quite happy this morning because now we have the ability to chat with both streams at the same time, which we didn't have that ability before. So wanted to say good morning to a few people: Brenda Owen and Mimi L, Karen Boylan, Linda Griffith. Hi, ladies. And Keiko Ameda. Hopefully everything in SoCal is nice. And Karen Marburg and Lucy. Mwah. Hello, sweetie. Has your website had any issues using PayPal? PayPal has been really weird the last little bit. I've had a few issues myself purchasing on other websites. And then, the next day it would work just fine. So I have no idea what's going on with that. And who else is here? Pat Lynchy. Hello, Pat. And Ruth Porter. And Joyce Gutierrez. I finally get that one right. And Iris Rorwick. Hi, everybody. It's been a very busy week. We have major construction going on around the house this week. My husband decided it would be the perfect time to redo the deck. So we have major construction going on outside. The deck was torn apart and, all of those good things. And I'm still dealing with whatever this is. So I'll beg your pardon now. I am going to cough more than likely, more often than not. So I'm dealing with this. So I sound a little bit like Gravel Gertie, but I'll live. And he's hobbling.
I'm hobbling.
This is part of the construction thing.
Yeah.
They were moving some massive big patio stones yesterday and dropped one
On my foot.
on his foot. So he's hobbling today. Yeah. So it's been a week. Let's just call it that.
You should be good to go.
It looks like I am. Thank you.
Right on. I'm going to go help Dad finish up.
Okay. Make sure he doesn't hurt himself.
Yeah, I'll try. More worried about me now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's been an interesting week. I got a bunch of happy mail this week. Shannon, I wanted to let you know that the teacups arrived. I was absolutely blown away with the rest of the goodies that you put in there. It was amazing. So thank you so much. And I have plans for the pieces that you sent me because they're just gorgeous and I love them. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I also this week got a bunch of surfaces in. They all arrived yesterday. So we have new Christmas ornaments. We have new plaques, new ornaments. We have pins. We have pumpkins. We have light bulbs. You name it. We got a bunch of stuff in today, yesterday afternoon. So we were frantically trying to get a bunch of orders out because there's a lot of stuff that came in. And Diane Hendricks. Hello, Diane. And Sue Potts. Hello, sweetie. And Karen Colbert. Carol, I hope you and your hubby are feeling better. Both of them had COVID. God bless. It's a misery. We actually tested in this house. I tested negative, so I have no idea, but whatever it is, it's still hanging in there. And Diane, I love your tulips. Those are so stinking cute. Diane Blake, she's has graduated to working with scroll saws and band saws, and she made the cutest tulips yesterday. They were amazing. Absolutely amazing. I just love the little chunky tulips. They're fabulous. You're very welcome. Pardon me. We have some great giveaways today with bazaar and craft sale season coming up and Christmas ornament. Everybody's starting to paint Christmas ornaments and things like that. I thought it'd be a great idea to have a set of detail brushes. And so we've got some mini shaders and detail liners, little tiny ones. They're ideal for doing Christmas ornaments because they fit into those small places. So we have 3 sets of those wonderful little detail sets. To give away today. Plus we have some goodies from Tombow, and of course we always throw something in from us as well. So there's a little create bag, and we filled it up with Dynasty Black Gold specialty brushes. They are a flat shader set and detail set. So there's 4 brushes in there. And then we've added some fabulous professional drawing pencils from Tombow and a couple of other little goodies as well. And we had packed that all into a nice little Create bag, and we are sending that out. We've got some fun new buttons that we're sending out as well. And of course, the little mini stencils, we have those packed in there. So it's a nice little prize pack that is going out to 3 of you today. So in order to get your name on the wheel, all you have to do is just join us in the chat, say hi, hit the share, the like button, or the subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. Any one of those things will get your name on the wheel. And at the end of today's live, we will spin the wheel and 3 of you will win one of those prize packs. So those are our giveaways for today. The piece that we're painting today is called Joy. I'm I am obsessed with cardinals. They are popping up in trends. We're seeing them in trend reports all over the place for the holiday season coming up, as well as into the fall. We're seeing a lot of them in fall decor, not just in Christmas decor, but we're seeing them in fall decor as well. So we're seeing a lot of it in the trend reports, and I am really loving the fact that they're not just the red cardinals that are showing up, but we're also seeing the little female cardinal in those wonderful gold tones. So it's going to be a lot of fun to paint this piece. It's called Joy. If you're looking for the pattern, it is available on the website. So is the surface. We've got the giant Christmas light bulb. We've got those in. So if you're looking for them, this one is fun. It doesn't require any stencils. It doesn't require any real big specialty stuff. This one is pretty straightforward. So if you guys are ready to get started on Joy, so am I. Look at that. I managed to switch this over without, causing catastrophe. Hi, Lorianne. Good heavens. What can you use instead of Prussian blue? You can use Ultra Blue Deep. You can use any really dark blue, actually, if you're looking for a nice dark blue. You could even use Payne's Gray if you want. It's just a tiny little shade in color that we're using for the reds, but a Payne's Gray or Prussian blue or Ultra Blue Deep, any one of those will work just fine. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this today. I really love this piece. These are just fat, fluffy little cardinals. These are not meant to be realistic. They are meant to look a little cutesy and a little fun. Pardon me. So, and they are fun to paint. They're not difficult to paint either. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with these guys. And to get started, we have to build that background. It's not a difficult one. You've seen me do this one before, but it never hurts to reiterate, if you know what I mean. So we're starting with the base color on this is Country Red. If you don't have Country Red, you can use Tomato Red. You just need a nice deep red. It doesn't have to be exactly the same thing. The color that I'm using is Soft Black. If you don't have it, you can actually use Lamp Black and then just put a little asphaltum in it. So I'm putting about maybe a tablespoon of Soft Black, and I'm going to use an equal amount of, I'm using Jo Sonja's Magic Mix in this one, mainly because I don't have any of Decor's Faux Glaze medium. So I'm using the Jo Sonja Magic Mix. This one actually works really well. I was quite impressed. And then we're going to mix that. I'm just going to brush mix. We just want to get it well combined. This part is really sloppy. But you just want to make sure there's no white streaks anywhere. There we go. Okay, so we've got a little bit of Magic Mix, and we're going to use a little bit of tissue paper. You can use saran wrap. You can use plastic wrap. You can use almost anything, but I'm using just tissue paper. I try to avoid anything with too much color in it. So if you've got white or gray, that will work perfectly. And my reasoning for that is quite simply, some of these will bleed if they've got colors, and then you don't want them to do that. So we're going to take that glaze mixture that we just made, and we're going to put it all over our surface. Neatness doesn't count for this. Perfection is to be avoided at all costs. You just want a reasonably even coat. And you have to work quickly because we don't want this to start to close or to dry. So I've got reasonably uniform coat. Now I'm going to crumple my tissue paper and I'm going to lay it onto the surface. And then using the palm of my hand, you don't want to use your fingertips because your fingertips will leave uneven marks in the surface. You don't want that. So I'm going to press like so. So it gives you quite a irregular look. There's lots of crinkles and ripples and folds in the paper. And then I'm going to remove the paper carefully. You don't want to yank it off. And then you can use that crumpled bit if you have any areas that you are not fond of. But actually, I'm really liking this one. So I'm going to dry that. Now, the nice part about this particular finish is that once it's dry, if I'm not completely satisfied with it, I can always put another coat on. So if you find that it's not dark enough to suit you, you can put another layer on. But all I'm really looking for in this one is just a little bit of movement, something in the background that is not just flat. I want a little bit of visual texture back there. And I'm really liking this one. I think this one looks pretty good. So I'm going to make sure it's good and dry. I'm going to clean out my brush. I like soft black over red. It stays nice and warm. It's not a harsh contrast. And this is just such a pretty finish, and it kind of looks like leather. Let's see. Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Cindy. I hope your family's getting well. Everybody seems to be rebounding. I'm just kind of been stuck in this, stuffy nose and chesty cough thing, which isn't all that surprising, really, but it's very annoying. I don't like the coughing thing. That's... So there's that mess that we made. I'm going to use a little bit of that soft black with a nice big angle, and I'm going to shade my edges with that. Not really a need to go and get more paint out if you've already got this glaze. So we're going to put a nice float of that soft black glaze around the outside edge of our surface. And I love how this looks. And you can do this over and over and over again until you get what you like. The other nice thing is with that little bit of magic mix in there, this color really floats very nicely. There we go. Oh, pardon me. Whoops. The nice part is this will give you a nice float. I'm a big fan. I love this color combination. The country red with that beautiful soft black. Hello, Lynn McGay. McBay. Oh my God, I can't even talk today. There we go. Looking forward to Saturdays to make magic. Uh, I was playing before we went live. You might have seen the little project sheet with the pumpkins. It's like I'm kind of obsessed with the pumpkins these days. I don't know why. Fall is coming, I think, and I love the fall. It's my favorite season. I like the cooler temperature. I like everything about the fall. It's my favorite time of year. So I was sitting here playing. I got some really cute little surfaces in. Ooh, I like it. So I'm going to dry that. Those little pumpkin pins are really cute. I have to admit, I had way too much fun with those. Of course, I didn't stop there because, what fun would that be? I've been playing with a bunch of little things, and I have these little mitten blanks that I just think are like adorable. And so I've been playing with these little mitten blanks, and I did a bunch of those too because, it's me. So but that's what I've been playing with. So I will have a project sheet for these available for you for tomorrow. But yeah, I had way too much time on my hands apparently. So now that we have this surface done, you can adjust this. If you find that it's not quite dark enough, and you can have a look at it and decide, do I want it darker down here? I think I might deepen this a little bit. And put a little bit more down there. Maybe. But I think for right now, I think it will do nicely. So we're going to put our line drawing on, and I wanted to show you how I do this. I decided to show you guys this one from start to finish, from, a base coated surface right to the end, for a couple of reasons. It never hurts to talk about tracing and transferring. It never hurts to reiterate on some really basic things, but I wanted to show you how I do this. I usually make a copy of my line drawing. If it's from, say, another teacher's pattern, I make a photocopy of my line drawing, and I work from the photocopy. I don't work from the original. That way, I always have it, so when I can put it in my favorite binder, or I can put it back in the packaging. I just prefer to do it that way. So I always make a photocopy of my line drawing. And then I like to glue my piece to the surface, or glue it, tape it. See, told you English is a second language today. So I'm going to tape this into place. Just want to adjust it a little bit, make sure everything is straight. So I tape it into place like so. And then that way, everything falls into place. Not only that, but the line drawing doesn't shift. And I'm going to use a little bit of white graphite. And I'm going to put that into place. And then I use a red gel pen. This is an ultra fine red gel pen. This one is a 0.38. And it has a stainless steel ball, so it has a nice fine point. And I get nice clean crisp lines. But they're nice fine lines, which is the reason I use it. I don't like tracing with a stylus. I don't like tracing with a ballpoint pen because I find it just makes thick lines and it doesn't make for a nice transfer. And then you spend half of your time trying to get rid of those thick graphite lines. So I really do like this 0.38 because it's a nice fine line. And it's so much easier to get rid of. So, 0.38, this one's a uniball signal in red. And I can see where I've been, which is key. The other thing that I use a lot when I'm tracing patterns is one of these. I use shape makers. This one is the one I had handy. And this is why. So if I have circles, berries in this case, I can trace them with the template. And what that does is it gives me nice, perfectly round berries. And it's so much simpler to paint a berry round if the circle I'm painting is round. So I like to trace all of my berries with my shape maker. It just makes them crisper, cleaner, and accurate. Accuracy is, I think, the most important part of that. Making sure that your circles are clean and absolutely round. So much better. And so much easier to paint round berries when the shape that you're painting is actually round. Easy peasy. Not to mention, I know what you're doing. You're going to sit there and try so hard to get them absolutely perfect when you're tracing them, and it's so hard to do when you do it freehand. So, once you have your circles in, you're going to trace your holly. Just like that. This part doesn't have to take forever. I watch people trace and I think, oh, you work so hard. You're going to cover up 99.999% of this anyway. Accuracy is the most important thing. But there are certain elements, especially something like this, where you don't need to be so meticulous about getting all of those holly leaves absolutely perfect. It's not that vital to be perfectly blunt. As long as they're where they need to be, that's all that matters. This doesn't take that long, really. Those little birds probably going to take the longest. These little guys are fun to paint. They're not hard to paint. And so there's plenty of room to play a little bit. So if you don't like the heavily detailed feathers like I've done, where I've got lots and lots of layers, you can do little bits. You don't have to do them all. But it is a fun and easy technique for doing it. So I'm just going to trace my little birds in now. Those tail feathers. Easy peasy. I love holly leaves. I know I put holly in almost every Christmas thing I do because I like them. I like painting holly leaves. But I also like mistletoe. I like the color of mistletoe, perhaps more than anything. Okay, I missed one right there. There's the benefit to using a red pen, is that you can tell when you've missed something. So we've got our little guys here. Make sure you get those toes. And the little feathers on the wings. You don't have to have every single detail of this bird drawn in. You're going to paint over most of it anyway. But again, remember what I said about having circles be circles? I look at the eyes that way. Those little eyeballs have to be nice and round. So I'm just going to roughly put in the shape of his markings. Again, they don't have to be perfect. Make sure you get all of those feathers on the wings. Those ones are important. And then this little guy up here. I guess this is a little girl up here. Not the little guy. There we go. So, quick check. You don't worry about the feathers on the chest. That's not necessary, but we do need the feet. We need to see those toes. There we go. So I think. Yep, we're good. So leave your line drawing in place. It's taped there. Pardon me. It is taped there, so you don't have to move it. But the reason I like to leave it there is that in case you're painting along and you realize that you've missed something, you can drop it back into place and add a detail if you need to. But I can look at this and it seems that I have all of my leaves, all of my berries, everything is in place. So we're going to start with our little birds. I just think these little guys are so cute. Little birds. Now, our little female, which is our little yellow one over there, she is done with a little bit of yellow ochre, which is a pretty blah yellow color. It's this one here. If you don't have it, you can use golden straw. Now, we're going to use a little bit of yellow ochre. And I'm going to use a small filbert or a round if I find a good round. There we go. Alrighty. Now, when we fill this little guy in, I'm not base coating this little one like I would most. I'm going to just use the tip of my brush and keep in mind that you're following the shape of the bird. So keep in mind the direction that those feathers go in. And remember, our little guy has got, or little girl, little texture. I very rarely, and you've probably noticed this, that I very rarely base coat with more than one coat. And my reasoning for this is quite simple. I most of the time use 3 to 4 to 5 colors on these things. So it's more about the layers than it is about anything else. So if I'm putting 4 or 5 colors on, there's not really a reason for me to have a fully opaque base coat. And this one, this color, this yellow ochre, actually covers pretty well. So I'm not overly concerned. but I am following the shape of the bird. I like to make sure that I follow the shape of the bird. So he doesn't have to be perfect. Oh, and see, I did miss something. I missed a feather. I missed the bottom half of the feather, which is not a big deal. I can just freehand it in because I know where it is. There we go. There we are. So we have all those little feathers on the wing. Now, when I'm painting, I leave a little space between each of those segments. So, a little bit. I like that little space. It's very helpful. That way, one, you don't have to go back in and trace on any details later on. But two, it lets you create a little extra dimension, a little extra texture. So there is our little yellow one. And we're going to use country red. I think it's country red. Country red. I love this red. So I'm going to use country red to do the same thing for our little boy over here. And I paint him in the same fashion. Again, following the shape of the bird. That little bit of direction, that texture that you create when you're doing this, just helps make that bird look a little fluffier as the time goes on. And it makes them easier to paint. Of course, I'm gifted today. I put my finger right in it. There we go. And then we've got the tail feathers. These little guys are not difficult to paint. It's all about the layers. All about those layers that we put in. We've got country red. It's not going to be an opaque base coat. It's not going to be a solid or even an even base coat. All we need to do is get a base in. A little bit of color. So our little female, we have to do some work on her face. I'm going to do a little bit of lamp black. And we're going to need a little bit of warm white. Shannon, there you are. Wanted to let you know the teacups arrived, and thank you so much for all of the goodies that you threw in there. Greatly appreciated. I can't wait to paint it now. So these little fellas, they're just fat and fluffy. They're fat and fluffy. I'm going to use a rigger. And I'm going to bring in a little bit of lamp black. And we're just going to very lightly fill in this mask. It's not, we're not doing the final details. We're just putting in a little bit of a base color. And I'm painting around the eye. Like so. The little mask is not going to be perfect. We're going to do the same thing to our little boy over here. Just need to get a little color in. And again, pardon me, we're going to paint around that eye. Remember what I said. We're going to, if you use that shape maker, it makes it a lot easier to paint those round spaces. So we're going to base coat that eye with a little bit of warm white. Now, if you really struggle with painting round things round, if you really have a hard time with it, there's nothing wrong with using that shape maker as a stencil and then using a stencil brush and a little bit of warm white to do those spaces. So there we go. We've got eyeballs. Always like painting the eyes on things first. Just makes them alive. Now we're going to use that country red again to base coat the beak on our little female. And we're going to do the same thing with our little male. I think, pardon me, for Christmas this year, we're going to see a lot of cardinals. We're also going to see a lot of mushrooms. There's a lot of mushrooms showing up in the trend reports for the holiday season. And mushrooms are so cute. You can do so many fun things with them. Cheryl, I know what you mean. We have major construction going on around our place. My husband is rebuilding our deck. He decided, we had a step down coming out of the house onto the deck. My husband decided that it needed to go away, which meant that the deck had to be raised. So that's what he's been doing this weekend, is rebuilding the deck. So cute. Here we go. Now I'm going to show you a trick. The reason, have you ever tried when you're painting eyes on anything, trying to get that little white around the outside edge? It never comes out the way you want it to. This is my solution. I paint the eye white, and then I use the handle of my brush, my rigger, and I put a dot in the center of the eye until it just leaves me a little sliver around the eyeball, like so. And then that way you don't have to paint that little white line all the way around the eye. What color am I painting the beak? It's country red is the color I'm using. And what's for dinner? Debbie wants to know. We're having chicken pot pie. I, uh, I have some new potatoes. I have some fabulous carrots and some fresh peas. And I had some leftover rotisserie chicken, so I am making chicken pot pie for dinner this evening. And my family, especially the boys, they will eat anything. If you put it in a pie crust, doesn't matter what it is, they're going to eat it. So I wanted to dry that enough so that I could put. Um, so I know I'm kind of harping on the whole eyeball thing, but um, I like to put a little tiny float of warm white on the eyeballs, just to one side, like so. Little half circle, tiny little float, like that. And then I like to take that white dot towards the upper left. And then we have eyeballs. Cute little eyeballs. I think they, this way they can watch you. There's something creepy about leaving eyeballs blank until the very end. It's just like, I can't do it. So, now that we've got all of that stuff in, I'm leaving the feet till the end because they're kind of, sticking out of the feathers. So I'm leaving that until the end. So we're going to paint our little red cardinal or our little yellow cardinal from start to finish. So one of my favorite colors in the last few years is sunset gold. If you don't have it, you can use saffron. Saffron's a little bit brighter, but I like the sunset gold. And you can use it as is, or you can use it with a little bit of warm white added to it, depending. So if you want it a little brighter, you can add it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up a little touch of warm white. I just want to make this a touch brighter. And I'm working with a 3/8 angled shader. And we're going to put some little U-shaped floats on the chest of our bird. Just like this. So we just want a little space. Let me bring this up to the camera so you can see it. So it's just a little U-shaped float. And we're going to alternate them back and forth like fish scales. So you can do as many or as few as you like. And you can make them as big or as small as you like. You do not have to get them absolutely perfect. There we go. Get a little more weight in there. There we go. Choop, choop, choop. So it's just a row after row after row of these little U-shaped floats. It just sort of creates like a fish scale look all across. Just like that. So we've got this nifty little row in there. I got something. I have a schmegly in my paint. Ew. There. And then we're going to take that same yellow and you're going to come up here at the top of the head. I love this sunset gold. I just think it's such a gorgeous yellow. And I'm just chisel blending it a little bit just to bring some of that gorgeous yellow out onto the head. And we're going to do the same thing to the feathers on the wing. That little U-shaped float, just like that. You can see how much brighter those feathers get. We're going to do the same thing to these little feathers on the tail. Make sure you bring some of that yellow all the way up. So he's still looking a little on the chunky side, which is good. I don't mind a little chunky little cardinal. Look how cute he is. Now, if you really want to amp this up, you can use, like I said, you can use a little bit of that saffron yellow in there. But you'll be surprised each time you put a little bit of that sunset gold in there, he gets a little bit brighter each time. So I'm going to rinse my brush out. And then we're going to use a little bit of heavily thinned asphaltum. I love asphaltum, especially with yellows. Now, oops, picked up some black somewhere along the line. There we go. Just going to thin that out quite a bit. I don't want it to be too dark. And we're going to shade underneath each of those little U-shaped floats that we just did. We're going to put a little shadow underneath each row. Just like that. And it will define each of those rows very nicely. But you don't want it to be super dark either. So just take your time and put those floats in. We are going to brighten these feathers, so don't panic if they're looking a little peaky. Do the same thing to those wings. Don't forget, there's that little row of feathers up here too, underneath the chin. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing under the tail, right there. There we go. So that little float, look what it does. Now all of a sudden those feathers have a bit more dimension. Now we're going to bring in a little of that country red. So I'm going to pick up just a small amount of country red. And again, I'm heavily thinning this. And we're going to put some of that country red on the tips of the tail. Not quite enough. There we go. So we want it, it's going to take on this really nice orangey tone right at the tip of the tail. And we're going to use that same color on the wings. So up here underneath that wing, this is that red. Look at how it pops on there. Gotta love that little bit of country red on those wings. Just pops everything. And you can deepen it a little bit. Right at the tips of those feathers. And then we're going to come up to the top of the head. I love this part because I love how this red just makes everything so vibrant. So we need a little float on the back of the head. And look at that nice orangey tone that it creates just on the top of the head. And then we need a little bit of a blush of it on the chest right here. Just a little. It doesn't take much, and you're just going to let it fade out. So you get that little punch of red on that yellow. And you can deepen it, you can brighten it, you can do whatever your little heart desires. If you want more red, then put more red. If you want it to come up a little further, then by all means. Each time you put a little layer of that red over top of that yellow, it gets a little richer. And it just becomes that much brighter and bolder. I just love how that red plays up with that sunset gold. So now we need to really make these feathers pop. So we're going to use that sunset gold. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of warm white. I want to make sort of a sunny day yellow. A little bit brighter. And we're going to highlight the edges of all of those little feathers. Nice little highlight. Just like that. It's soft. Doesn't have to be perfect. And it's just at the edge. Easy peasy. Now the more you layer this, the softer and fluffier this little guy looks. So we've got that nice bright yellow is back. We're going to take a little bit of that bright yellow at the tip of those feathers. Just a little. Just pops those bright, look at how bright those feathers get the minute you put that little bit of yellow at the tip. A little bit in there. And then I'm going to take a little bit of warm white on the dirty brush. So it's almost all warm white. And we're going to put just a tiny little highlight, very soft, in a few places on this belly. It is soft, not perfect. Look how fluffy he is. I love that he has that bright, fluffy look. The yellow I'm using is Sunset Gold. And I'm only changing the value of it or the tone of it by adding a little bit of warm white. So the more you add, the brighter it gets. Now I wanted to show you something fun. I did not do this in the original pattern, but I wanted to show you something fun. This is Scorching Yellow. I just want you to see what this does. If I can get it out of the bottle. Okay, fine. I will open the bottle. Here we go. It is a very hot yellow. It is an in-your-face yellow. But I wanted to show you something fun with this. So if you really want to amp this up a little bit, bring a little of that neon yellow in just in a few places. I don't think you want to put it everywhere, but a little bit here and there is not a bad thing. I just kind of like a little of that very in your face orangey yellow. Look at that. So our little guy here gets this neon yellow, but it just amps up that yellow. her head looks like it's on fire. Yeah. I love that I can come back in at any time and bring in a little more yellow, a little more of that country red in there. I like that it just amps that up a little bit. You can bring a little underneath just to bring up that, that flame look of that really pretty little female cardinal. I think the female cardinal has a lot more interest, as pretty as male cardinals are, and they are. I just think that the female is so much more interesting. She has such beautiful tones. She has this wonderful element to her with all of that, that touch of yellow and that touch of red. I just think she's marvelous. So I'm going to deepen under the wing just a little float of asphaltum under there just to deepen things a bit. Now we're going to add a few little details to our female. We want to soften this band around her face a little bit. And so I'm going to use my extra long detail liner, and I'm just going to pull little short strokes just to soften that edge a little bit. I find it just looks a little chunky and I want it a little softer. So I'm going to use the liner just to create some fine little hair-like details coming off of her face and out onto those little feathers. There we go. Kind of like that. It just gives her a little more interest. Now, I'm going to use a little bit of that warm white and a little bit of that sunset gold. I just want to make a sunny day yellow. Bright sunny yellow. And we're going to put a couple of little highlights in right here. I just like a little highlight the front of her face. And a few little ones on the backs of some of these little feathers here. Just keep it really light. All it does is just give her a little more definition. That's all. Love that look. It's very soft. It doesn't have to be elaborate. But that little highlight does wonderful things for this. It just softens the overall look. So there we have our bright little female cardinal. She does need some detailing done to her beak. And this is where that Prussian blue or that Payne's gray will work beautifully. It's a tiny amount. You don't need a lot. It's a tiny little float of that Prussian on the bottom of the beak, right here. Just to shade on the bottom half of the beak, right like that. And while I have it out, I'm going to do the same thing to our little male over here. It's just to give the bottom half of the beak a little definition. Now, I have scarlet. I love this color. If you don't have scarlet, a little bit of red alert with a touch of that sunset gold will work wonders. But I'm just going to use a little of that scarlet to highlight the top of the beak. Just a little. Don't need much. Do the same thing to our little man over here. It just gives the beak a little bit of brightness. And then we're going to give it a final highlight with just a touch of that sunset gold. I just want a little line of it on the top of the bill. Just like that. There's not a lot to this beak, but it is just enough. Now the brush that I'm using is my this is a Dynasty Micron. This one is a 15-aught. I've worn the one off. It's a 15-aught extra long detail liner. So there is our little female. She has a few little details, but those things we will finish up once we have all of our little red guy done. I love this fellow. We're working with the country red, and we're going to use a little bit of scarlet to do our highlighting on this. And we're going to create the same detail on this little guy that we did on her. This is where we're going to use a little bit of that Prussian. So I'm going to start by building his chest, and we're going to use that scarlet, that orangey, bright orangey red. And we're going to do the same thing that we did to our little female. We're going to create sort of a fish scale effect with a little float like so. These are not perfect. They don't have to be. But they are fun, and they should get a little smaller as you go along. There we go. So we got that little row of fish scales, just like we did with Mama up here. We did the same thing to our little fella. And we're going to bring a little of that scarlet across the top of the head and out and up. So I'm just using that sort of a chisel blend for the top of his head. And then the individual feathers get the same treatment that we did on his belly. I'm going to do this with a float of that scarlet. And then these long feathers, this is the easiest way to do these, is just load the brush as if you're going to float. And then you stand the brush on its chisel edge and pull the color back towards the bird. One for each feather in the wing, like that. And then we're going to do that same highlight on those tail feathers. I'm going to bring that scarlet about 1/3 of the way. You don't need to bring it all the way up, but about 1/3 of the way. Just like that. Look how cute he is already. So he's got shape. Somebody had asked about the beak. There's not a lot of detail on the beak, not yet. So I'm going to dry this. And then we're going to use that Prussian blue to shade under those little feathers. I like Prussian blue for shading reds. So it is a weak float. I'm not using it full strength by any stretch of the imagination. So there's my first float. Underneath that little row of feathers, we're going to put that float of Prussian blue. If you don't have Prussian, you can use Payne's Gray, or you can use Ultra Blue Deep. Just needs to be a nice, deep, transparent blue. The transparent part being the most important. So, see, that weak float, it's not a super strong color. We're going to do the same thing under this row of feathers on the wing. And where the tail meets the body. So I'm going to bring a little of that blue in between those feathers. It's a tight spot to float, so I just use the chisel edge with a little bit of pains or a little bit of Prussian. Just separates those feathers a little bit. These guys are super cute. So we're going to highlight these feathers. And I love these little guys. We're going to bring that. Remember what we did here? We chose that little bit of sunset gold and we added a little bit of warm white to it to lighten the value. We're going to take that scarlet and I'm going to pick up just a little touch of that sunset gold. I just want to slightly change the tone of that scarlet, and we're going to highlight the tip of those feathers. And it's a nice soft float. Don't overthink it. Just a little float like this. It can go past the edge. Don't worry about being absolutely perfect. These are not crisp. This is what gives this little guy that sort of fluffy look, is that these floats kind of overlap, but they're not perfectly overlapped. I'm going to take that mixture again and come up to the top of the head. There's our highlight color. Look at that. And we're going to do the same thing to the tips of these feathers here. A little bit just at the tip. There's that lighter value. Same thing with the tail. We're going to bring that orangey red tone up. I love the lighter value in here. That little bit of yellow added to our red gives our little bird a nice fluffy appearance. Now I just took my dirty brush and picked up a little bit of that sunset gold. Gives us an even brighter orange value. Little tip out at the edges, tips of those feathers. Same with the tips of the tail feathers. And a little bit on our little cardinal here. So now we have that nice bright orangey red. And I'm going to deepen a shadow here because I kind of missed one. There. I missed a little shadow here. There we are. So cute. Now, the same detail that we did to the head of our little female, we're going to do to the male. We're going to use that sunset gold. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of scarlet. I just want to make this a bright orangey yellow. And not quite light enough. There we are. A little bit. I like to see a little bit of that heat, that bright yellow in there. There we go. And we're going to add that same detail around the face of this little guy with that black. I'm going to thin that out. I like the finer little lines. They just soften the overall appearance of this mask. It doesn't look so hard. And it makes our little cardinal look a little fluffier. And it's just a little bit of lamp black. There we go. I like those little feathery things. These little guys. Okay, so we are ready for all of that holly. Now the color I'm using is antique green. You can use lush green. It will work just as well. And I'm also going to work with a little bit of warm white. So I'm using a rigger and warm white, and we're going to paint all of our berries. I like to put a coat of warm white on berries first. It just makes the berries that much brighter in the end. Same with using the shape maker. The shape maker helps keep these berries looking nice and round and sharp. There we go. Nice round berries. I like to have a white base coat under berries, particularly red berries, because I find it helps keep them nice and bright and bold. And you kind of want that. And because we're working on a red background, I want these berries to pop. I want them to stand out from that background. If I were just to go in and base coat them with country red and then highlight them and shade them, they would be nice, round, and lush looking berries, but they would have a tendency to drift into the background a little. And I really don't want that. I want these to stand out a little bit. So I put a coat of white down. Because it will make these berries seem nice and bright against that darker background. Especially since we started with country red. So the colors are very close. This way, they're going to have that nice vibrancy. Pretty, pretty. Did the chat stall? Looks like it may have just stalled. I keep looking up. And I keep thinking that this is a touchscreen monitor, and it isn't. So it won't take us long to paint these. One of the things I love about anything to do with Christmas, I love adding a little bit of gold, which is something I wanted to show you with the lettering. There's all kinds of fun things that you can do with lettering. You don't have to just go with white or blue, or you can create some really fun and interesting things with it. And I've been playing with metallic pens a lot lately, and paint pens in general. And one of the things that I've discovered is that you can really have a great time with a paint pen and lettering. It does simplify a few things, and putting a metallic on in metallic paint on lettering is problematic because in order to get a nice finish in a metallic, it often takes more than one coat, and it's difficult to get that nice uniform look, especially on lettering because it's so small. And doing multiple coats is sometimes not as easy as it might seem. So I have discovered the joys of metallic paint pens. And I've been having way too much fun with mine. So, oh, you're just concentrating? Oh, good. That explains everything. Everybody got too quiet. So make sure that's good and dry. So I'm using the same red for those berries that I used in the background. So this is why I went with a white base. So if I put that white base down, I can use one coat of that country red. And look how that berry pops off of that darker background. Having that little bit of white under there just lets that color stay nice and vibrant and bright. And it just works so much better. Now, having said that, there are no rules that say you have to paint them red. It is holly. Holly does have them, but holly berries are not always red. Depending on the stage that they're at, they can be different colors. So if you want them white, you can paint them white. If you want them a pink tone, they would be so pretty in pink. I really love the country red. I think because I'm very fond of a traditional color palette when it comes to Christmas. So I tend to stick to more traditional colors. But having said that, that just because I do doesn't mean you have to. And I think it would be fun to do it in shades of pink. Change up the greens and use something a bit more modern or a bit more contemporary. I think it would be very pretty. I'm a big fan. So, if you've ever wondered why I paint everything white first, this is why. Metallic paint pens. There's so many different ones out there. And quite honestly, some of them are very expensive. And some of them are limited in the size that you can get them in. Deco Color, which is the one that I use the most often, actually has them in a variety of sizes. Gold metallic paint pens. They have them actually in copper, gold, silver. And I'm a big fan of their product for a couple of reasons. One, price point is very reasonable. The quality of the paint in them is excellent. And because you can get them in a variety of tips, you don't have to go with just that big chunky chisel tip. You can choose out, pardon me, you can choose them in a bullet tip. You can get them in an ultra fine. So you're capable of using them for a variety of things. You're not obligated to just stick to this one great big honkin' chisel tip. So that's one of the reasons. And availability is a big issue as far as I'm concerned. If I can find it on Amazon or if I can find it on, a good retail website, that makes a big difference to me. If I go to a site and it's constantly out of stock, that's going to be a problem. I don't like having to hunt for things. And Deco Color is readily available. You can find it at Walmart. I think the last time I saw them, they even had them at Home Depot. So you have plenty of options. So there you go. Look at that. Nice bright red over top of that country red. It really stands out quite nicely. I like it. I'm pleased. So the color that I'm using for the holly leaves, we're going to do one coat of either lush green or antique green. Either one. And I know what you're thinking, one coat. But I very rarely paint anything with multiple base coats. I think a lot of the time it's just quite simply unnecessary. So, one coat, antique green. Over top of this red, it actually covers reasonably well. And antique green is just such a great color. Lush green, a little bit more opaque. If you're more comfortable with more opaque coverage, then try the lush green. It'll give you that same tone, that vintagey, earthy green. It'll give you that same tone, but it has a little more opacity than the antique green. Either one will work just fine. I think base coating, a lot of the time, we worry about getting things absolutely opaque. And when you're painting, if you're only going to put one shading and one highlight in, then fine, put a fully opaque base coat down. And again, it also depends on the color, but it's very rare that I put more than one coat. Even with white, it's very rare because most of the time I'm using other colors with it and over it. So I end up burying 2/3 of it anyway. So I just don't worry about it all that much. And besides, the method that I use for painting, it covers it all anyway. So there we are. It's a lovely green. Antique green is just a lovely green. It's one of those vintage tones, you know? It just has a nice earthy feel to it. And I've been playing with pastels a lot lately, and coral for whatever reason. I have no idea why I'm suddenly enamored with coral, but I am. I've been using that one a lot. So next Saturday, we are painting a phone stand. And we're going to have some fun with a sort of a Tuscan looking background and a little bit of stenciling. And we're going to create some nice lush looking grapes. I've got a fun and easy technique for painting grapes, so we're going to be doing that. Fun piece, a little functional, which I like. And so this is the piece that we're painting next weekend. It's a super easy technique for painting grapes. And then I like the kind of vintagey, Tuscany looking background. I really like that look. So that is what we are painting next weekend. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of chat. You guys must be really quiet today. I know a lot of you, a lot of painters were off to OKC this past week. Oklahoma City. I miss going. I really miss going to Oklahoma. It was always such a fun convention. Sadly, it's really difficult for me to get there from where I live. Oh, perfect, Charmaine. You're all set. So, I'm just about done with these leaves. It's times like this I question why I put so bloody many of them in. But it's okay. I have nobody to blame but myself. It needed a whole bunch of little holly leaves. That's what it needed. Just to fill that space in nicely. And give our little cardinal something to rest on. Easy peasy. Let's see. I know, little phone stands are awesome. I, you know, I have a thing for grapes too. Oh, sure. You absolutely, this would probably fit on there, but you could always enlarge it a little bit too. It doesn't, it's an easy design to enlarge. And that's a great idea, the little charcuterie boards. I think that would be super cute. Thanks so much. And now I've got a million other little ideas rolling around in there. Could we do a goldfinch sometime? Yeah, that would be a great one to paint, wouldn't it? Goldfinches are so pretty. We don't often see them here. We have a very short window when they go through here. They come here for a very short period of time, but they're very pretty. Same with orioles. We do get them, but they don't stay. We get the odd one. I love birds. My mother was an avid bird watcher, and her feeders were just designed specifically to attract um, all these different types of birds. We just put bird food out and accept what comes, and we get a lot. We get gray jays and blue jays, and we get these pileated woodpeckers, these great big ones, and then we get the wee little ones. We get hummingbirds. We get a little of everything. Okay, look at that. Finally reached the last leaf. There we go. I know. You guys probably watched me paint holly far more than you ever wanted to. Well, the word charcuterie actually just refers to the meat. I don't know why they call them charcuterie boards and then put cheese and everything together, because the word itself actually only refers to the meat. So we're going to handle these holly leaves. These are quick and easy. These are quick and easy. We're going to use a little bit of either plantation pine, black green, midnight green, any nice dark green. It doesn't have to be exactly what I use. It's going to work. So I've got nice dark green. And we're going to shade the base of each of these leaves with a nice little U-shaped float. I know I use that term a lot. Essentially, it just means that I'm only floating along the bottom portion of the leaf. Oops. And that just sort of keeps the leaf giving that nice long curve, that little bit of definition at the base of the leaf. And don't forget, where these leaves overlap, you've got to put a little shadow in there too. Oops. Almost forgot which way I was going. There. There we are. So always on the end that has the stem where it joins the leaf. Comme ça. And don't forget where it overlaps. Bluebirds. That's something I've never seen here, is bluebirds. Just the last couple of years we've had nuthatches coming in. I love those little guys. So you get the little nuthatches and house finches. I've never seen a house finch here until this year. And the little red ones, they're so cute. Well, the little red-breasted ones, I should say. We get little juncos and chickadees and blue jays, gray jays. We do get cardinal from time to time, although we don't see them very often, but we do get them. And I saw cedar waxwing last fall for the first time, and I've been here 15 years, and I saw them for the first time last fall. I had no idea we actually got them here. So, I've got that first shading in on all of these leaves. And, yep. Here we go. Just double check, make sure I got them all. So we have that first shading in, and it is at the base of the leaf where it joins the stem. So our next step is to put that center vein in. And we're going to start at the base of the leaf and come out to the point. Oops. Need some water in the brush. There we go. So down the center vein, like so. Stellar jays. I haven't seen them here. We used to see them out west, but I haven't seen them here. I know what you mean, Shannon. I miss my dad too. There we go. So, shadow down the center vein. That's just what gives that bend, that dimension to our leaves. So we're going to highlight these with a little bit of margarita. And then I want to show you what a little bit of that neon green will do for these, because they really do pop very nicely with a little bit of that neon. And I missed 2 leaves. There we go. So, I'm going to dry this. Now, the margarita, I love margarita for highlighting these. I like that bright, bright green. Hi, Dee. You know what? I miss having him here too, but he always has his hands full with maize on Saturdays, because he's only really home with us, 3 days a week. So, and what's for supper tonight? Yeah, you did miss it. We're having chicken pot pie. Homemade chicken pot pie. So, margarita green. I love the high yellow green for this. You know what? I'm going to clear my palette because this is a train wreck. Here we go. Give myself a clean palette so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Whoops. Way too much, but it's fine. So, I'm going to use a little bit of margarita green. I blend this out really well on my brush. And I focus on the points. I bring that light right out to the points of my brush. Oh my goodness, I think I got way too much paint on here. Here we go. So I bring it right out to the point. I want that brighter highlight on those points and down the center vein. So down the center vein, right out to the point. So you can see that gives it a nice, soft, bright highlight. But if I come back in with a little of that neon green, this gives you a nice little punch. So you can amp up those highlights quite a lot with a little bit of that neon green. And I love, it doesn't show as well on camera. I wish it did. But that little bit of that gorgeous neon, it just makes all of those little highlights pop. But it seems to need that little bit of that lighter value green underneath it. Otherwise, it just doesn't seem to have the amplification. But I love a little neon green. It just gives them a little bit more saturation. But it's not for everyone. I really like that vibrancy that it gives everything. So that appeals to me on a lot of levels. So yeah, I love my neon. They've been harder and harder to find, though. I will say that. I was looking around one of our Michaels stores recently, and they don't have any, or at least mine didn't, which I found a little frustrating. I love neons. So when you're putting these little highlights everywhere, sometimes those, remember that shadow that you put down the center vein of everything, it gets a little muted, a little lost because of all of that highlight, that lighter value in there. And so they look a little meh. They don't quite have that, oops, a little too much. There we go. That center vein or that shadow just sort of goes away a little bit. In a dollar store of all places. Huh. Is there a rule to which side of the leaf the shadow is on, or do you just see it when you look at each leaf? This is how I assess it. I look at how that leaf is bending. And if it is curving this way, then my shadow's going to go on the left to give me that curve. put it on the other side, it messes with the shape of the leaf. So I think of it in these terms. There's going to be two sides. I always put it on the narrowest side. And I usually, in my line drawings, will, just to show you, I will give you an idea of which way the leaf curves. I always put that center line in. Sometimes I'll even put a shading guide in there so that you can see which way they're supposed to go. There we go. So when you see the leaf bending this way, if it's curving that way, it's got to go on the outside of the curve. That's my rule of thumb. That just, for me, that's what works. So, let me finish off this little highlight here. Okay. So I have my highlights in place. I'm going to rinse this brush out. And I'm going to get a little more of that black green or Prussian or plantation pine. And I'm going to come back in and deepen the float on the center vein. So I'm going to thin it out a little bit. And this is where my leaves really take on a lot more shape. Is when you come back in and you deepen that highlight, that shadow down the center vein, the leaves take on a little more dimension. They lose that sharpness when you're putting the highlight on, because it kind of gets that opaque color, just sort of washes them out a little bit. But when you go back in and you deepen that float, then you get all of that definition back, and then the leaves take on this really nice sharp look. So just for instance, let's talk about this one. Those shadows get a little washed out. When you go back in and deepen them, it crisps them up, sharpens everything, and it brings all of those shadows back. But it also adds a little more definition and a little sharpness to those leaves. Just deepen them and redefine those shaded areas. There we go. So we've got a little bit of Prussian blue on our palette. And this is our shading color for our berries. So I'm using a tiny bit of that Prussian blue. You don't want it full strength, so make sure you blend it out well on your palette. And we're going to shade our berries on the right-hand side. So all of the berries get a little float, Prussian blue, bottom to top on the right-hand side. Just like that. Hi, Linda. Hi, Robin. So there's that little float of Prussian blue on the right-hand side of each of these berries. Top to bottom, right-hand side. That Prussian blue is a nice transparent color. It's ideal for shading that country red. It just gives it a really nice richness. So I'm going to show you a little trick. One of the colors that I've been using a lot lately is tea berry. Now, I did not use it originally in this piece, but I wanted to show you why I've been using it. Just because if you have it and you don't know what to do with it, let me show you something. This is tea berry. This is one of those colors that is, you look at it and go, it's not a red, it's not a pink, it's not a coral. It's just sort of a weird in the middle thing. However, I want to show you what it does for reds. For highlighting reds, it's gorgeous. So if you take a little float of that tea berry, and you're going to put a highlight on each berry on the left hand side, but you're going to come in from the edge just a little. So I want a little sliver of the country red to show. And it goes top to bottom. Little sliver. It is not a drastic highlight, but it is a beautiful highlight. It gives a nice richness to these berries. You need that little sliver of the country red. Is going to make these berries look a little more dimensional. There's that little sliver. Top to bottom, just a little sliver. Tea berry is a great highlight color for red. Now you could do this with a little bit of warm white. It will work, which is what I did with the original. But the tea berry, quite honestly, I've been using it more and more lately to highlight things like berries and highlight reds. It's such an unusual color. It really brings out the red tones. It's slightly opaque. It's got a little chalkiness to it. But it's a wonderful highlighting color for red. It just brings out all of those nice rich tones. And look how soft it makes that red. It's really a nice, nice color. So you can do it with warm white, but if you happen to have a bottle of tea berry around, try this. And then the final highlight on each of those berries is a little dot of warm white on the upper left side. So little dot of warm white, upper left, right on that highlight. Remember where that highlight is? You want it right there. So you're going to have that little sliver of red showing. Upper left, just like that, on the highlight. Makes a world of difference. If you take it right to the edge, it kind of throws off the round look. So if you put it right on the edge of that highlight, leaving that little sliver of red, it actually makes the berries look very round. So we have nice bright red berries. Now I'm going to dry this really well because now we're going to do all of these connectors. All of those little vines, tendrils, and edges that are going to connect these leaves and ground everything to the birds. There we go. I want to make sure these dots are nice and dry because it's me and I will put my fingers in them. I was thinking the other day, this would be so pretty on a set of coasters, or not a set of coasters, a set of placemats for the holidays or on chargers. I think this would be really pretty. it's a fun design to paint. It's not a difficult one. It is fun. So the color I'm using is a little bit of margarita. Oh, I've got lots of that. And I need a little bit of warm white. I'm going to grab my Josonia. So, margarita green. I'm using my extra long detail liner. And I'm going to put a little touch of warm white in it. Not that I want to make it lighter, I just want to make the green a little bit more opaque. It does change the value of it, but not much. So, here we go. Get that nice and inky. And this part is fun. I don't know about you, but I like this part. This part is fun. So we're going to connect all of our leaves. So we've got a little vine, branch, whatever you want to call it. And we're just connecting things with that liner, just to bring those leaves all together. There is something about putting these little vines and tendrils in that just finishes this very nicely. I like the little vines and tendrils. I'm a fan. There we go. And then once you have them all connected, so we've got all of our little vines and stems and everything connected, we're going to add a little detail to the edges of the leaves. And I start on that little stem, and I just do a very fine outline. It does not have to be exactly on the edge of the leaves. And I like adding that little flip to the tips of the leaves. And as I said, they don't have to be perfect. There we go. Easy peasy. Oops. These little bits just help ground this design a little bit. And it softens everything. Having those little details just softens the edges of things quite nicely. Easy peasy. I do this with almost all leaves. I just like how it looks. It gives them a softer detail. It makes the leaves stand out, gives them a little extra highlight, but it also gives them a little bit, like a little bit of a flourish. So the leaves are pretty. So we have just a few more little details to add.
Still having the same issue, eh?
Yeah, I thought maybe that would have fixed it up, but
Guess not.
nope. There we go. They miss you, by the way.
I did find a neat feature on YouTube, though.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Did you know you could do this during a live?
Probably not. I'm usually busy. Okay, didn't know you could do that.
I didn't know that you could do that during a live either.
Huh,
And you can leave it there.
cool.
See? You gotta show people. Look, you could zoom in.
Didn't know you could do that. Again, I'm questioning my judgment when it comes to putting all these frickin' leaves in. I think I got them all now, though. There we go. So I have to put in some feet. He needs toes. Our little fellas need toes.
Off topic question. Is Jack Studio soap supposed to be sort of solid like Vaseline
Yes,
and smell like lime oil?
yes.
Or is it supposed to be liquid and smell like linseed oil?
No, it smells a little like linseed oil. But yeah, it does smell like lime oil too. But yeah, it does look like Vaseline. It's good stuff. So I'm using a little bit of asphaltum just to paint in those little toes that are peeking out from under those feathers.
It's resting bird face?
It's resting bird face.
Or resting beard face?
Oh.
Bird face? Beard face?
So little toes, a little bit of asphaltum. Going to dry that, and I am going to use a little bit of yellow ochre or a little bit of golden sunset gold, sorry, to put a little highlight on the toes, because, you know, just needs a little highlight. And it's just a little stroke on the top of each toe, just so that we know they're there. And my liner brush has got a little... it's got a little thing in the end.
Schmeckling?
I don't know what you'd call it. It's got a... It has a hair that is out of whack. And it's driving me nuts. So this is my chance to go in and add the odd little highlight if I feel it needs it. So we have lettering. I'm going to make sure this is good and dry. So we have a little bit of lettering, the word joy. I'm going to use number 2 rigger and a little bit of thinned warm white, because we're working over a nice dark red. I'm going to use a little bit of thinned warm white. And I love my rigger. I have a gift for putting my finger in my freshly painted lettering today. There we are. don't know. I'm not sure what that was. It sounded like a printer. It was printer. The nice thing about a rigger is that I can paint up to a 1/4 inch wide with a number 2. And this is such a cute little font. Aptly named, it's called Joy. There we go. So I'm going to dry that really well, and then we're going to use a little bit of soft black or lamp black if you want it to really stand out. We're going to use a little bit of lamp black. And we're going to shade to the right-hand side of each of our letters. What is it? So, we're going to put a shadow underneath our lettering. So a little bit of thinned lamp black. You don't want it full strength because that would be a little strong. And we're going to put a float right up against the edge of the lettering. Like so. Just on the inside right on the background. Just like that. Now that little bit of a shadow is just going to lift our lettering off the surface a little. Just to give it a little more dimension. Just like that. So it doesn't have to be much. That little float, that little shadow is going to lift our lettering quite high. So I'm going to grab a gold paint pen. And I have a couple of different ones. I can't find my deck. Of course I can't. That's not it. Okay, I can't. My gold one seems to have gone walkabout. This is a Deco Color Extra Fine paint pen. This one is liquid silver, but they come in copper and gold as well. This one is my favorite. It comes in a very nice fine point. It makes it so easy to do a whole bunch of different things. The other one that I found is actually quite handy is this one. This is Pen Touch. This is a gold paint pen as well. This is a quick dry, opaque, and permanent. And these ones are also fairly easy to find. I like this one because it's got a fine bullet point as well. And the nice part about it is that you can quite literally go over top of your white paint with that gold paint pen. Now, I put the white down first for a couple of reasons. It, again, gives you a nice base for that white, for that gold pen. And it makes it so much easier to see where everything is. And then you just use your, just like using a giant Sharpie to put that gold in. And it's a nice bright metallic gold. It's not a shimmery gold. This is a flat, almost chrome-like finish. It works really, really well. And this one also comes in a variety of metallic finishes, but I'm very partial to their gold. And just don't put your finger in it like I do. And because this one is fine, it makes it so much simpler to do those nice little details. So I've got nice gold finish on my lettering. And I'm going to dry that really well. Just takes a minute for this to dry. And then we're going to add a highlight using a liner brush. We're going to highlight this metallic just so it stands out a little bit better. And I'm going to use my liner for this because I want this to be fine. And it is a thin line on the left side. Remember, our shadow went on the right, so the highlight's going to go on the left. Just like so. So right on the edge of the lettering. It just makes the letters stand out a little bit more. Inside and on the outside left. And there we go. So I'm going to take my line drawing off, and then we're going to talk about finishing the edges. I'm going to use my chunky Big Deco Color gold paint pen. I love these. Now, I use these a lot for finishing the edges of ornaments because I think it's really effective. And it just gives everything that nice professional look, especially if you're painting for, Christmas markets or craft markets and whatnot. This just makes such a beautiful finish on the edge of things. If you want a little bit more of a border on your painted piece, you just tip the marker in a little bit, and it gives you a nice controlled, thin gold border all the way around the outside edge. So it gives you a nice finished look on the edges of the piece. And I love this look. I just like that little bit of bling at the edges. I just think it's so pretty. And it finishes up your piece very nicely. Now I will let this dry really well. And then I'll take my black eraser and clean up any visible graphite lines that might be still in place. I'm going to dry that. I'm going to grab my black gel pen because you know me, I gotta have my gel pen. So I'll make sure this is dry. And my little gel pen, I use this for adding little details. So, if I want little scribbly marks between the feathers or to detail feathers, I'll use them there. I like them on the edges of the tail feathers. It cleans up so many things. It's just a fun way to add a little detail to things. Little scribbly lines. I like the imperfections. The imperfections, I think, are what make things interesting. So, little scribbly. They don't have to be perfect. You can add little more details to the eyes along the head if you want to. If you want to separate the bill a little bit, you can do that. There's 100 ways you can detail this using a gel pen. Lots of fun stuff. And I do like my little details. So, I'm going to dry this one more time. And while I'm doing that, Renee's got the wheel ready. And we have 3 really nice little prize packs. And Flurry. I used a gel pen on a project. When I put varnish on, the gel came off. I always seal everything with 1 or 2 light coats of matte spray. Anytime I'm using, whether it's a marker, whether it's a gel pen, whatever I'm using, I will always, anytime I'm using something that is not acrylic paint, it just saves you the frustration in the end. What's the matter, Mace?
She at the door.
She's got her head stuck through there.
You can't fit through there anymore.
She's got this whole drama thing going on up there, like, I miss you. Come back. So, black eraser. I use 2 different ones. Are both my favorite. I love these. This one is Tombow Mono. This is a soft plastic black eraser. And yes, I varnish over top of my spray sealer. These Tombow Mono erase graphite very nicely. I don't like graphite lines. And I love the Tombow Mono. The reason I use these black erasers is because they don't damage the paint. They don't polish the paint. So you don't get shiny spots. It takes off the graphite. It doesn't mar your paint. And it doesn't add shiny spots to anything. So they're just fabulous. So the ones that I use the most often are the Tombow Mono. I have these ones on my website. I love them. And the other one that is readily available, you can get them at Michael's. You can get them at Dick Blick. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at Hobby Lobby, is the Factus Black 18. Does the same thing. It will remove graphite so easily, so beautifully, without smudging or smearing. And it does not damage your paint at all. Now, to finish this piece, I would hit this with 1 or 2 coats of DecoArt matte spray. I prefer the matte spray because then I can use whatever varnish I want over top of it without any issues. And once I've done that, I use my favorite varnish, which is DecoArt's Ultra Matte Varnish. I prefer a matte finish. That's just a personal preference, but you can use whatever you like. And that...
Showroom gloss.
Yeah, he likes his gloss. I'm not a gloss.
I like showroom gloss.
So this one has 2 light coats on it. You can see the difference in the color. 2 coats of matte spray over top of this. All of the colors just pop the minute you put a varnish on. But I like 2 coats of matte spray first. Seals everything down. Then I never have to worry about ink smearing or line work coming off. I don't have to worry about any of that. So 2 light coats, DecoArt matte spray, and then you can varnish it any way you like. And that is how you get a little joy on a Saturday afternoon.
Joy.
A little joy.
What's the other one? Denim.
Denim finish? Yeah.
Yeah. I like denim finish.
So, Renee's got everybody loaded onto the wheel. I think. Yeah. Holy smokes, there's a bunch of names on there.
Yes, ma'am.
190. Wow.
Here's a few. Let's see the chat. What are they winning?
Giveaways today. We have, because holiday season is coming up, or painting for holiday season is coming up, they need some detail brushes.
Halloween first. Let's deal with that.
Well, that all falls in there.
Okay.
So they're going to be painting ornaments and decorations and all sorts of neat things, and you need good detail brushes for that. So we're giving away 3 sets, 4 brush sets of Dynasty Black Gold, mini shaders, and detail liner.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a nice little set. And of course, there's some goodies from Tombow and from us. And a nice little create bag.
Come on, mouse.
Trying to get the mouse to work.
Yep, I'm spinning now.
Don't got it.
Whoa.
Who do we got? Oops, short game.
Betty Orr. Awesome. Congratulations, Betty. So, if you're lucky enough to have your name drawn, all you have to do is head over to my website at tracymoreau.net, click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and send us your shipping information so that we can get your goodies out to you as soon as possible. Cheryl Buckland's worn hers out, her detail liner. I'm so generous with giveaways. Verna Cook Stoddard. Congratulations, Verna. Deanna, I am very fortunate that I have very generous companies that support this, these lives that we do. And they are DecoArt and Dynasty Brush, and we have goodies from Tombow, and we have all sorts of goodies from a variety of manufacturers, from paintingwithdeb.com and sandymcteerdesigns.com and Sheila Landry at tollpaintingdesigns.com. So we are very fortunate that we have such supportive friends. So we can easily be generous because they are. And we have one more. That's a lot of names.
Yes, ma'am.
And our winner is Sushetta Campbell.
A lot of names I'm not recognizing. Which is great.
Yeah, we have a listen. So next Saturday, join us. We're going to be painting a phone stand. This one is so much fun to paint. And somebody gave me a great idea. I think we're going to try the same design on another surface as well. So come and join us. We're going to be painting this fun little phone stand with some nice lush grapes and a great Tuscan background. Going to have a little fun with that. So we're going to have a little fun with a Tuscan theme next Saturday. We're painting these grapes. And we're using a fun little stencil that I just added to the website. I really like this one. Of course, it's got cancellation stamp on. So join us, same time every Saturday. We go live at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, both on Tracy Moreau Live on Facebook and on the YouTube channel at YouTube. I know. My mouth runneth over today. So I hope
YouTube's Tracy Moreau.
it's Tracy. Yeah, sorry. Oops. I haven't got all the hashtag things down yet.
YouTube.com/Tracy Moreau.
Yeah. So come and check us out. We always have great giveaways thanks to some really generous sponsors, and we have a lot of fun painting this. And if you have ideas or if you have questions, please hop over to the website, click on the little speech bubble, and send us a message. We love hearing from you. In the meantime, everybody have a great weekend. If you get a chance, grab some brushes, paint something, and we will see you right here, same time, same bat channel as we do every Saturday. So thanks for joining us. Mwah! We love you. Stay safe.
Hope that works. And pet your dog.
And pet your dog.
You get the button.
I've got the button. I'm in control? Really? I beg to differ. Have a great weekend, everyone.